May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've got some great speakers that are going to come speak to you. But first thing I want to go over is next month is Brain and Dementia Awareness Month. So we will have some great speakers talking about dementia and brain disorders, and we're also going to have a blood drive. Because it's National to Give Blood Month, and so if you are willing to give blood, we are going to have a bus out here so that you can give blood. I think the blood banks are kind of low right now, so we're going to have that. So please spread the word. It's going to be June 17th is the next event. So again, that's June 17th. That's Brain Awareness, Dementia Awareness Month, because June we celebrate the longest day, and that's for dementia and Alzheimer's awareness. The longest day because it's summer solstice, right? So that day is the longest day, but for caregivers, every day is the longest day. So we will be talking about that next month. I appreciate all the vendors for being here. Make sure that you go around to their tables and talk to them. They have some really good information. We've got some good vendors here today too with some great information for you all. So make sure that you visit all of them. Also make sure to tune in every Friday on WEAC TV 24 every Friday morning at 7:30. Or if you miss it or you don't get up that early, you're not a more early riser, you can always go back on WEAC TV on their Facebook page or on YouTube. It's also on Fire Stick, Roku, all that good stuff. You can go back and watch the morning show, but each Friday we have different speakers, different guests rather, that we bring education and resources to our communities. We're very proud of that. We've had some wonderful speakers, and as a matter of fact, today's speakers were my guests on a morning show as well. So we have awesome speakers. We have anywhere from doctors to attorneys to people that talk about frauds and scams. We've had people talk about sex trafficking. We've had the Domestic Violence Agency come and talk about domestic violence. We've had, prosthetics, people from prosthetics company come and talk about that. All kinds of information. And here in the future, Friday's guest, will actually be a lady who is a speech pathologist. She's going to be coming and talking about speech. It's actually Speech and Hearing Awareness Month as well, I think. So she's going to come and talk about that. In the future, we have Teresa Spangner's coming to speak about counseling. She's a counselor. She's going to talk about some more mental health information. And of all things, we actually have a snake person coming to talk about snakes, and only because it's summertime. We live in Alabama, so he's going to talk about what to look for, what to do, what not to do, that kind of thing. And he is also a snake remover, so he can actually come and get your snake, so you won't have to deal with it. So we have some really good speakers lined up, all kinds of different subjects, so make sure that you tune into that. Also, like I said, MJ is up there and he's recording this, and this will be a 30-minute show on WEAC TV 24, which airs 3 days a week, every week until the next event, and that's for every month we do that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest, Miss Kathy Folkley, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her. She's a grant writer and a volunteer with the Calhoun County Community Foundation, correct? Sorta. Okay, I don't have my notes up here, so I'm winging it, right? So she's going to come up here and talk to you. She and Fred do a lot of great work. They actually had a conference, like a one-day conference, called Out of the Shadows Summit that they had actually here at the Oxford Civic Center, and they actually have it every year. They partner with Jacksonville State University. It's a really big event, and I'm sure she or Fred can talk to you about that too. But again, I'm going to let Kathy introduce herself, and she's going to talk to you. I know one thing is she's going to tell you a little bit about the history of mental health as well, so it's going to be very interesting. So let's give a hand for Miss Kathy.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes, good. I'm Kathy Folkley, and by history, I'm a licensed counselor and have worked in the mental health field off and on for off and on since 1970. So what I'd like to do, let me get this comfortable. What I'd like to do is really share with you the history of mental health in a little capsule, taking you all the way back to state mental hospitals. Everybody know what Bryce was? Bryce Hospital? Okay. Okay, let me back up. We have always had mental illness. Mental illness is just like we've always had people who've had heart problems, people who have had leukemia. We have people who have mental illness. Mental illness sits on a continuum from people with a chemical imbalance to where they don't know exactly who they are, they have seizures, to on the other end, I'm depressed, I'm blue, I don't feel good, I'm anxious, all on the continuum. Well, back in the 1700s, actually it was like right around 1770, they created the first state hospital. And what that really was, it was nothing more than to house people who had a mental illness, who their family or their community could not help them, or they didn't know what to do, or the family had money and they just needed to put their family loved one in a place that was safe. This started out as a really good idea, but unfortunately what happened is over the years, over 100 years, take us up to 1870, 1900, state hospitals became overcrowded. You were able to commit or put a family member in there even if they weren't sick. Women oftentimes suffered more than men because oftentimes all it took was a signature from a judge or a church member, and the husband could put that wife in the state hospital, and she had no recourse to get out. Teenagers were put in the state hospital because they were, have you ever known a wild and crazy teenager that finally grew up? Yep, okay. They ended up in a state hospital and sometimes never came out. And this went on for years. The commitments, there was very little medication to treat people. The people who worked at the state hospitals were really just caregivers. And then you would find probably one nurse, one doctor who believed, or he had a family member and he devoted his life to it. Okay, so then in the state hospitals still strong, still overcrowded in the 1920s. Then they started using some medications, and then they actually did what they call lobotomies. Anybody ever heard that word, a lobotomy?
Yep.
Okay. So what a lobotomy is they actually went in to the brain. It was brain surgery, and they kind of cut. Now this is a very elementary explanation, but they actually cut the nerve endings of the brain. And these were very sick people, meaning they did, here again, they were a little bit uncontrollable or a lot uncontrollable. They were not sure of time, place, or person. They were erratic. But in the United States, over 20,000 lobotomies were performed. Well, that probably helped with some research, but it really didn't help those people. Some people have limited intellectual ability, meaning some of us are smarter than others, but that doesn't make us any different. But they also kind of rate that, because sometimes your intellectual ability gets tied to how treatment happens. So finally, 200, 300 years later, we're a little better, but we still have to work at it. What we still have is we have family and we have church. Okay, now I want to kind of change here for just a second. Okay, I've been telling y'all about treatment and medicine and services and how we help people. I've been in the field a long time, and I'm going to tell you, and I would go up against anybody with this, family and friends, and if you have a church, you don't have to have a church, but it's a very critical part of us all, are some of the best things that can help us when we suffer from a mental illness. You know, we're all born into a family. We all know our family. Some of the saddest situations is when we leave those members of our family who are sick. We need them and they need us. The church and friends, I don't know, however you define God or your spirit, that is such an important element. Sometimes people grow up without that. But I'm going to go back to it again and say most of us have had that foundation as a child. Maybe our parents never went to church. Maybe our parents, one said, you know, I'm not sure there's a God or not. But there was somebody in your family that told you about church. I believe that mental health in the community can only get better with family, church, however you define that word, and your own education of learning about yourself and your family members. I don't care how many drugs you take, I don't care how many hospitalizations you go through. If you don't have something to go back to, what was the point? What was the point? I hope I have not bored you. I just think it's important to know history and to know where we've come. I now want to introduce, well, let me just ask this. Does anybody have any questions for me before I turn this over to a wonderful man? Okay, well, y'all look still awake, so that makes me feel good about that. Fred Smith is the Vice President of the Community Partnership and the Community Foundation of Northeast Alabama. And he and I have been friends for 8 years probably, because we have put on the Out of the Shadows, the mental health conference, talking about family, friends, and community. And I just think the world of Fred, because he is all about community. He's not only part of the community foundation that helps raise dollars to put services in our community, but he's also a pastor, he's a father, and he's just a real good friend. And so with that, I'm gonna let Fred have the podium.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Ellen for this, putting this all together. And then let's give Ellen a hand. Thank you for her work. She had Kathy and I on her show several weeks ago, just before Out of the Shadows, and that was a really great opportunity for us to share more information about our mission and the Out of the Shadows conference. And I want to thank Kathy. I feel the same way about Kathy. She has been a very, very important part of us coming together each year, and she's a very important part of our team. And so I have the floor now so I can publicly thank her for all the work that she's done to help Out of the Shadows. And thank you for that presentation, Kathy. As Kathy said, my name's Fred Smith, Vice President of Community Partnerships at the Community Foundation. I get to wear several hats in my life and also in the community, of which I believe all of them are very important. But today I'm going to just focus on two of those areas. One is going to be the work of the Community Foundation and its connection to Out of the Shadows. And then also, I'll talk a little bit about the session that I did at Out of the Shadows, where I focused on bridging the gap between mental health and faith. I also want to recognize two of our partners that are here other than Kathy, the Fordhams, Sam and Katie Fordham in the back. They do work with Parkinson's, and they are some partners with the Community Foundation as well. Okay, so first of all, let me ask a question. How many of you have heard of the Community Foundation of Northeast Alabama? Raise your hand. Okay, I see a lot of great hands. Okay, so our mission at the Community Foundation is to achieve positive change through the generosity of donors now and for generations to come. So what do you see? Out of the Shadows, where we come together and produce close to 300 participants each year, and sometimes over 300, is a direct result of partnerships. So I can't emphasize that enough. When you're talking about mental health awareness, you're talking about mental health advocacy, you're talking about mental health treatment, you're talking about resources for mental health, it is only going to change primarily through what you do personally, but I'm talking now from a community standpoint. It's going to have to happen through partnerships. So what do partnerships do? It increases your capacity. Partnerships also increases your resources. Think about it. If you have a boat, how many of you ever rowed on a boat before? Raise your hand. How many have driven a boat before? Raise your, whoa, very good, very good. Can I get a ride next time you go out? Just kidding. No, you've never driven a boat? You don't want Well, I just came off of a cruise ship, and I took my family for a vacation several weeks ago, and so we were on a very large boat, and interesting enough, it didn't feel like we were on a boat. The ship was so large, but that's another story. Here's the story. If you have two people on a boat, okay, and both of them are businessmen, okay? And both of them are in the same field. And they want to make a difference with life vests. You have one businessman that's been so successful that that businessman has been able to create over 6,000 life vests. And that businessman actually has those 6,000 life vests on the boat. Then you have another businessman that's just getting started in the same business but wants to make the same impact. And they have been only able to create 3 life vests. But they're on the same boat. Now you would look on that boat and you would say there's only one successful person on that boat, even though there are 2 people on that boat, right? And this is kind of how you look at the not-for-profit world. We have successful not-for-profits that's been able to achieve a lot, get a lot of donors, and have a big amount of resources. And then you have that not-for-profit that's just starting off. And you would look at that not-for-profit and you would say, well, that not-for-profit's not successful. But when you're talking about partnerships, partnerships is not just about success, it's about significance. Okay? It's about significance. Now, you have the 6,000 life vests that were created by one organization, and then you have another organization that's only been able to create 3. But now listen to this. In the water, right in the front of that boat, there are 3 people that are drowning. There are 3 people that are drowning. The person that has created 6,000 life vests decides, I don't think I want to share those 6 out of those 6,000 because I'm going to miss 3. The person that was only able to create 3 says, there's no way I can avoid those 3 that are drowning. And so the person that only created 3 throws out the 3 life vests, and they help the 3 people that were drowning. So now on that boat, you still only have one successful person. That's the person that's created the 6,000 life vests. But you also only have one significant person, and that's the person that was willing to help. See, here's what partnerships is all about. Partnerships is not about how much you have, it's what you're willing to do with what you have. Because in the eyes of those 3 people that were drowning, the person that was the most significant was not the person that had the most. It was the person that was ready to make a difference. So when you partner, you're saying either I'm a big organization or a small organization. I have great resources or small resources. It doesn't matter. When you partner, you make a decision that you are going to play your role. So that's a little bit about partnerships. Now, that's how the Community Foundation has connected with such a great initiative as Out of the Shadows, because we've decided to play our role. We don't want anybody to be one of those people around the boat that needs help. We want to put people in a position that as they give, as they find causes to champion, that we become that philanthropic vehicle to help them accomplish the mission of making the community a better place to live and meeting the need of those that may not have the resources to do it themselves. So where do mental health challenges come from? It comes from areas in the brain that need to be addressed. So I'm telling you, it's possible to be spiritual and human at the same time. The scripture said to let the mind of Christ be in you, not the brain of Christ. Because Jesus still has his brain. Matter of fact, he took it with him. Right? We don't all have his brain. Right? But we do have his mind. What is his mind? It's his thought process. It's his way of thinking. It's the spiritual nature of him. That's his mind. So why do we have so many people in the households of faith that are ashamed? Because they think the scriptures don't work for them. So here's what has to happen is you have to be aware that you are made up of three parts. One, you are a body. Somebody say a body. Say it louder. A body. Let me tell you what your body gives you. Earth consciousness. Then you are a soul. Somebody say a soul. Your soul gives you self-consciousness. Then you are a spirit. Somebody say a spirit. Spirit gives you God consciousness. So if you lose consciousness to either one of those, you are not feeling whole. So your brain is a part of your body. And there are professionals that are in the community to help you with your body. You don't feel bad if you go to somebody to try to lose weight, do you? Huh? No. You don't go to somebody if you say, hey, help me to run faster, or help me, I slipped down and I skid my knee, or I hurt my arm, or I hurt my wrist. Why? Because because those things were not stigmatized. Getting healed for a broken arm was never stigmatized in history, so you don't feel bad about it. Letting somebody help you put a cast on your leg was never stigmatized, so you don't feel bad about it. The only reason we feel bad about getting mental health treatment is because it was stigmatized. And so what I'm asking for all of us to continue to do, in a room like this, we're speaking to the choir, right? But I want you to be encouraged in whatever capacity you are in and whatever role you play. You may be the person that has the 6,000, or you may be the person that only has the 3, right? But wherever you find yourself on the spectrum of resources, of ability, of capacity, I want you to be encouraged that you are making a difference, because you don't just need to focus on success, you also need to focus on significance. And when you are able to make a contributing part to the betterment of our community, don't feel bad because you don't feel successful. Feel great because you are one of the ones that are considered to be significant. Have a great day.
A free conference. We have that at Fort McClellan every year. So that will be on November 14th. And then November 19th here will be Caregiver Awareness Month. And December 16th, we'll have Holiday Wellness, where we will have music, all the good things, and we'll have free health checks that day as well. So just make sure that you keep up with us on the East Alabama or the Alabama Cares Program, East Alabama on Facebook, or you can go to our website. You can get all that information out front at the table. And thank you to our speakers today, and thank you to all our vendors, and thank you for coming. Have a good day.